Hi, this is a virtual studio. And a virtual studio is a way to actually set up a modeling studio. If I wanted to create this character, for example, I could work on top of this image. And in particular, we're talking about using a box model to actually create a character. So if I were to start out with a simple shape, and I want you to notice I've got segments here to divide this into smaller portions. Notice over here I've got these proportions. So I'm in the middle of creating a box, and it might be difficult to know how thick or how deep, because all I can really see when I'm fixed on this one image is the proportions from here. So once I've created this shape, I can give it a name by going to the Modify panel. Before I forget, and as I create it, I should call it Body, just to kind of give myself an idea. Now, rather than modeling arms separately and linking them or connecting them, there's a fairly efficient way to do these things called box modeling. So what I'm going to do is, in the viewport here, is make sure I've got my segments showing. And so I'm going to make sure I've got the default shading in combination with the edged faces, which should help me, so that if I click on a part of a polygon, I can see it. Before I go any further, though, let's take a look from the side and see if I've made it properly deep. And in this instance, because I magically have this plane over here at a 90-degree angle appropriately, so if I lock on my left viewport, I can compare it to the torso of the character, that I'm creating. So I'm using the Move tool to move it into place, and I want to make it thicker. Now I can do that a couple of different ways. I can click in the Modify panel here, and I can adjust my value. Let me do an escape on that because that was the wrong one. It's considering height. There we go. So as I've adjusted the value there, the other thing I could do if I didn't want to adjust with the numbers, if I wanted to just eyeball it a different way, and all I did is click and drag, is I could simply go to the scaling tool and I could change the scaling. So let's look from the top, and I'm going to touch the T on the keyboard to look from the top, and here I get a different perspective. Again, I did this without showing you the setup of the modeling studio first, to kind of give you an idea that, oh, he's actually got 3 reference planes. So I'm in a perspective viewport, and let me just kind of back out and show you that this box now is positioned in a way that is proportionally correct to do my modeling. To turn a box into a different character, very common way to do it, I could convert it to an editable poly, but that would prevent me from returning to the lower levels in the stack. So the modifier I'm adding is called Edit Poly, which lets me select at the sub-object level, such as, for example, a polygon. Polygon level for sub-selection would allow me to do things like grab a center polygon. Should have 3 of these here, do I not? This is a good example where I want to make sure that my object down here has got 3 on all 3 sides. I only have 2 here. I want to make this 3. So I'm able to change that object to 3 because I did not convert it to an editable poly. Rather, what I did is I added an Edit Poly modifier. This could become a neck right here, turning the box area into a longer piece can be done through a couple of different ways in Edit Poly. So I'm going to use my hand to come down here. I could extrude, which just as demonstration purposes would extend it out. Or if I were to do a cancel on this, I could use bevel, which gives me a little bit greater control on both the initial height as well as a flare, so I could have the neck flare out as it gets up a little taller. Admittedly, this is going to be a little boxy. We're just trying to come up with the general shape here. Clicking on plus allows me to extend another one, and I can make an adjustment before I click on OK to change my bevel so that it doesn't bevel quite out as much. If I click on plus again, I can adjust my values so that I've actually kind of roughed out the general shape of a head. When I'm done with this, I'm going to click on the checkbox indicating I'm done, and I'm going to take a look from a different view, and I do have the general shape of a head. So the idea of clicking on a polygon and then applying a modifier such as bevel or extrude, if I bring up the dolly here, it's going to use the last settings, which are not appropriate for this, so I'm going to need to change these values so that they look a little bit better for what my purposes are. give it some extension, check my work from a different angle, change my bevel so that it comes out more appropriately for, this would be an elbow piece that I'm working towards. I could add a taper later if I wanted to. By clicking on plus, it's going to double that extension. And of course, on my second half of my arm, I'm going to want to make it bevel out at a different degree here. And then I could work on a hand. Now this is just a quick demonstration of the idea really of being able to check your work by touching F, scrolling back and looking at the front viewport. You can see how far off I am. And if I were to use L for left, I can look from the side. Again, you can see how far off I am. And if you have a properly scaled reference image, it can be used to do your modeling. That's all I really wanted to demo. This will be used in the SpongeBob project in more detail, for the Doodlebob project, I should say. Thanks for your attention.